Hello, we are the social emotional group. My name is Dylan Kraus, and we have
Brandon Jimenez.
I am Dorian, and I am also Dorian Roberts.
Our mission statement is to inform of the importance of social emotional communication skills throughout the different stages of development. And I'll pass it on to Dylan.
And what we'll cover over today in our slides, we will describe the development of pro-social behaviors, explain the benefits of social emotional learning, describe peer influences on behavior, and then also tracking back behavior to childhood.
throughout the semester, we've been mainly focusing on these three theorists: Erik Erikson and his theory of psychosocial development, Sigmund Freud and his psychoanalysis theory, and Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. Primarily, though, we have been focusing on Erik Erikson and his theory of psychosocial development as outlined in the depiction off to the right.
And just for a little bit of context for Sigmund Freud's and Gardner's theory, Sigmund Freud's psychoanalysis theory touches on how our childhood experiences and our unconscious desires influence our behavior. And Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence talks about how humans have different ways in communicating and processing data and being independent.
Social emotional learning. So we have some social emotional learning practices that can be implemented in the school, in the classroom. And these include emotional check-ins and using identification cards to help students better understand their emotions. Now, these identification cards are just little cards that have depictions of emotions that children can choose to better represent how they're feeling. Some other practices include group work, nurturing a culture of kindness, utilizing reflective writing, conflict management through peer mediation, among others outlined on this webpage up at the top. And for a little activity, I implore you to pause the video, go through the web page, and get together with some peers and try to discuss some other social emotional learning practices that could be implemented. Implementation. In the research, Social and Emotional Learning as a Public Health Approach to Education, they explain how current implementation is only used to help students that have already developed mental disorders or other substantial issues. Researchers wish to implement it to all students as a way to prevent these disorders and behavioral issues, and it will also help to fulfill stages 3 through 5 of Erikson's psychosocial development stages and develop the traits of initiative, industry, and identity. Effects and goals of SEL is to create equitable learning conditions among students K through 12 through use of SEL practices. We can foster SEL through a variety of educational approaches that promote students' capacity to integrate thinking, emotion, and behavior to deal effectively with everyday personal and social challenges. Evidence-based social and emotional learning programs, when implemented effectively, lead to measurable and potentially long-lasting improvements in many areas of children's lives. SEL seeks to put a focus on self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. You can see all of those in the diagram off to the right. And all of these aspects help to promote a more pro-social student, which will help them become more well-adjusted adults. A nationwide survey of teachers showed that 97% believe SEL can benefit students from all socioeconomic backgrounds, and research reviews consistently show that SEL programs have positive effects, reporting significant effects on positive social behavior, conduct problems, and academic performance. Career path connections. So for me, I want to be a clinical psychologist for veterans, and I have found that many veterans lose their sense of community and identity when transitioning out of the military. This leads to a degradation of social and emotional skills. Implementation of SEL in early years will work as a preventative measure Yet SEL practices can be applied in group therapy sessions in order to redevelop the social emotional skills of returning veterans. It is my assumption that since early SEL implementation works to prevent illnesses like anxiety and depression in developing adults, it could also reintegrate veterans into society and help them with the same illnesses. As a hopeful clinical psychologist for veterans, implementation of SEL may have extremely positive effects on returning veterans.
Now on to my portion of the presentation. I I looked into different research articles speaking about the importance of establishing social and emotional development at a very early age, and specifically establishing and making sure that individuals are able to appropriately develop, especially with trust and mistrust, which occurs in Erickson's first stage of development. And one article I found supporting sort of his theory is uh, this article, and these are two pieces of information that I found very important. Proximal goals of social emotional learning are to establish safe and supportive learning environments and to foster social and emotional competencies. Social, including the ability to understand and manage emotions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show caring and concern for others, and to establish and maintain positive relationships, um, to make responsible decisions in the future. Um, Social emotional competencies is the capacity to coordinate cognition, affect, and the behavior that allows individuals to thrive in diverse cultures, contexts, and achieve specific tasks and positive development outcomes. And how this sort of relates to my career path is through the effect and toll it takes on the development of young individuals. So whether it's an individual goes through trauma, or if they successfully develop in a manner in which they are able to trust the individuals around them and have an established trust, and not really encounter these issues, um, they can develop and socialize in a normal manner. So in my career path, I would want to focus on helping individuals who are young adults and struggle with particularly with social issues. And here's some information I found on how this affects young adults. So during early adulthood stages of development, ages 18 through 25, young adults are more likely to engage in substance abuse, drive while intoxicated, and have unprotected sex. There's also lack of social emotional development skills, leading to having trouble socializing, academic struggles, and psychiatric conditions such as conduct disorder, conduct disorder problems. Another issue that presents itself is the risk of criminal activity and behavior that is above the norm for individuals with social emotional disorders or development. Pardon me. And here are some ways that I found in which uh, individuals can be helped to sort of prevent or treat these problems as they present themselves, whether it presents itself at an early age or at a later stage, like I mentioned, young adulthood. So ways I think this can be combated is through joining clubs, volunteer work, going to social events, whether that be at school or within a community. And examples of skills that can be taught to younger kids is, be observant, observe any signs that may look off, or that can raise a red flag, maybe. Creating a supportive atmosphere, sharing life experiences, stimulating discussions, and giving students the opportunity to practice and to celebrate when there is mistakes, because it's an opportunity for learning. And here in this link below, there is more information on these points I mentioned. So if you feel, so I encourage you to all dive deeper into that.
Thank you. Now, up next, we have our pro-social behavior. So with pro-social behavior, children begin to understand the value of other people's thoughts, feelings, and experiences around the age of 2. They begin to show empathy towards one another, such as sharing, cooperating, and all acts of generosity. So at a very young age, we start to experience these things, such as experiencing and also being taught these things of saying thank you, including peers in our activities, no matter what we do, whether it's a fun one or just something to have everyone involved. Volunteering, I know from experience when I was a teacher, kids always would love to volunteer. When you ask for a volunteer, their hands shoot up super fast. Consoling another peer. So if they see a peer that's hurt, or they see that they're not their usual self as they usually are, some usually children around that age will like to help them out, including everyone around them. It's the same thing as including peers in activities, and then also defending one another if one happens to be offended or if someone's being targeted by a certain someone else. They usually have each other's backs. 6 types of pro-social behavior. The first one would be altruistic, which is voluntary action inspired by goodwill and consideration for others, even at the cost of their own. For example, random acts of kindness are frequently sparked by empathy and internalized principles of helping others. So that's just a child or just even someone of our age going out of our way just to do good at the end of the day, whether it might mess up their time, but it's like if they see that this person does need some help, or they just feel in their body like, I feel like helping this person, that's what they're going to do. The next one would be compliant, involves aiding others when they need help. For example, young children are more likely to engage in compliant helping and cooperative behaviors compared to spontaneous helping. So for example, if a student sees another student struggling with their homework and they're finished with it, they'll just go over to the troubling students to try to help them figure out what's the issue, what's going on, or even try to do their best to ask the teacher like, hey, I tried to help. I think you probably have a better reasoning or a better teaching than I do. So if you can help the student out, that would be great. Emotional, helpers in emotional situations with sympathetic reaction, other traits such as empathy and higher morale. So that's just if kids are emotional, or just even us as an adults are emotional, we happen to go to our peers, see if what's going on, doing our best to be that listening ear and do it our best to really give them that empath reaction. Up next, it'll be dire, assisting those in time of need, whether it be a crisis or an emergency. So that'd just be if you were to get a phone call or just even a text from one of your great friends that are just going through something and they needed you right away, you do your best to either be there for them physically or even just on the phone, or just being with your presence is enough. Fifth one would be public, included people who perform helpful acts in front of others. The way I see this would be more of social media, for an example, how they do record and, they show the public like, hey, this is the issue that's in our community and this is what we're doing to try and solve it. So if you would like to help, this is what you can do. Or, there's different options and opportunities. And then lastly, be anonymous, assisting those who need help without being acknowledged. So I see that as just, you either leave a note or you pass the message onto someone else that, hey, I'm gonna give you this money, or I'm gonna give you this food, or I'm gonna give you this idea. Go ahead and share it with the world, or share with this person of X, Y, and Z, and that'll do the best for them. Next slide, please. Lastly, peers influences behavior throughout life, but primarily before adolescence. The behavior, peer pressure, individuals to commit to that same behavior to feel accepted and valued by those around them. So I'm sure a good few chunk of us have been around a group of people, whether they're our friends or just people in a school environment where we would either act out or we would feel some type of way because of the people around us would either be hyping us up or they'd be like, oh, you should do it. Just do it. Like, why would you not do it? Or just, just being really forced into do something that you don't want to do or something that you probably want to do, but you don't have that push for it. During adolescence, a massive developmental change occurs and some resistance to peer influences develop. However, early SEL implementation can help student learners develop good pro-social habits, and those will persist into adulthood. So from the 6 types that I had up there, being around certain peers or the way you were taught by your either parent, guardian, or someone of a figure, teach you how to do good, or as time goes on, you live and learn. With those type of habits in your life, that'll affect you later on in your adulthood. And then lastly, for me, in terms of career path, I'm still a little bit unsure, but I do know I would end up being or want to be more involved with industrial and organizational psychology to deal with the workforce, or even somewhat of a counselor, just to kind of see how to make a better workplace to deal with people, how to deal with people in a better workplace and how to make that environment more comfortable for them instead of just them suffering day to day, like, oh, I have to go to work. Like, try to find a reason for them. How can we make this work a better spot for you? And even for a student at school, like, how can I make being in class enjoyable for you? Or how can I make you be able to succeed with doing homework, or to make you feel more positive in doing things? Yeah. Lastly, our citations.
And this concludes our presentation. Thank you.